Kylie, could you step up to the microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
What? All right, can you hear me now? So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for this music. When you were playing Believe, my brother looked at me and he told me that Billy is still alive, and Billy is our cousin who passed away of brain cancer in 2012. And holy shit, he would have loved to be here. He would have loved this. So thank you. The music is beautiful. For my question, not really a question, but I was recently reading about the Saskatoon freezing deaths in Canada, and the movie that is coming out, or has possibly already come out, the article I was reading was kind of old, but I was wondering if you could share any experiences with what you experienced on that side, because I know our police, any kind of brutality is largely swept under the rug. But the Saskatoon freezing deaths were so routine. They were punishment, practically sanctioned by law enforcement. I was just wondering if you could share your experiences.
I'm sorry, I only got half your question because I just put it up in the monitor. So tell me again, because it's important. I want to hear exactly.
So the Saskatoon freezing deaths in Canada, the movie that was coming out and the articles that have been written, can you share your experiences kind of relating to that or along that same line where the brutality has just been so sanctioned and swept under the rug? Your firsthand experiences with...
Well, I can't pretend to feel the real pain of the victims of the force of the empire, because I'm a privileged white person. Okay, so I grew up privileged, and but the pain that money has caused 90% of humanity can never be measured. I mean, how do you measure pain? How do you measure the pain, how do you measure the pain of a million gnats diving into the ocean? I mean, there's no way to measure pain. And that's the thing, you could measure money, and the moneyed interests, which have always controlled us, will always prevail until we realize that we are many, that we outnumber them. We really do. The question is, when we do prevail, will we become them? So, the worst things that humans perpetrate on other human beings will have always happened and will continue to always happen. And is that what we want to be? And you can never really ask yourself that question and know the answer until you live in the shoes of the haves. Until you're part of that elite. And so what I propose is that we create a system through policy that doesn't allow that to happen. And how do you allow that to happen? By creating a system that rewards equality, like a country. There's a country called Bhutan, you may know of it, between India and Tibet. And they don't have a gross national product. They have a gross national happiness, and it's a serious thing. And all the metrics that they take into calculation are things like the environment and people's satisfaction with their lives and their health and the economy. But the economy is one part of it. In the capitalistic system that we live under, the good old boy, Chicago boy, laissez-faire system, where, I've got mine, fuck you, that doesn't exist. Nothing else matters. Everything serves the corporate bottom line, which is, legally, corporations are required to do one thing, and that's hand over accelerated profits quarter over quarter to their shareholders, investors, and CEOs. That's it. That's the only thing that matters legally. That's all they have to do, and that's what rules the world right now. So the profit metric is applied to everything in nature, except things that matter. Except things that matter, like the health of the planet.
But that's one of the
health of human beings.
Do we accept?
That's one of the things we wanted to do with this movie, is to regenerate. Because you always see documentaries about Native Americans and, you know, the plight, but we wanted to re-energize that. And one of the things that I'm doing, I'm going to college now, and one of the things that I'm an educator. So one of the things I really wanted to do was develop a curriculum that really rewrites American history, so that we know actually what the U.S. government has done. So the real truth comes out. People get taught this so that children can get taught this in classes from this point on, because from this point back, nobody knows about it. And it's just been, like you said, swept under the rug.
So many people know about it, it's just, it's right.
So it's good to see you all here and being passionate about what we're passionate about. And we're driven.
So we're preaching to the choir, right? We're preaching to the choir. So there's this divide in this country. There's a 50-50 divide in this country, and probably the rest of the world, and probably the rest of humanity. And why does that exist? What is that 50-50 divide? I've thought about that a lot. And scientists, you know, with much bigger brains than all of us collectively, have thought about it and researched it, and used the method of science to analyze the data and come up with an understanding of why we are the way we are. Why do 50% of us in this country want to vote for Donald Trump and the other half want to vote for Bernie Sanders? Why is that?
Why do people think?
Well, we think differently. We think differently. That's what they've come up with. That's not me talking, that's our brains. 50% of us think compassionately, 50% of us are geared to think selfishly. Period.
And it's been difficult. I mean, you know, we've gone and we toured, well, not toured, but we visited a lot of different reservations, and it's really different. It's, you know, when you see the struggles that people go through. Yeah, and I'm Pueblo, I'm full-blooded Pueblo, so, you know, I have my reservations that we go and visit too as well. But this vehicle, Shadow Train, Shadow Nation, we really are inspired to try to go and just pick people up. And you saw that through, you know, George has been, he's been eloquent and energizing in his motives, where he gets the, you know, he gets people instruments, and, you know, that's inspiring for kids, you know, because they're stuck in these places. And you know, so I applaud him, and you should applaud him as well for doing that.
There's great heroes out there. There's soldiers for humanity. There's Tom Morello, there's Howard Zinn, and there's Noam Chomsky, and, you know, 1,000 others, you know, that I can't name.
Lemmy Kilmister.
John Trudell, who just passed away today, and you know. I mean, you know, and has it moved the needle? And will it move the needle? And that's why I brought up science. Because if 50% of us are wired to think in terms of Ayn Rand's Fountainhead, and just care about ourselves and operate out of fear and greed, and, you know, this myopic sense of, you know, we're just, you know, the others are evil, and demonize them, and use warfare and everything we can to extract, you know, steal their resources and turn them into slaves so that we can live this sort of exceptional lifestyle, this thing we call American exceptionalism, which is such a slap in the face to the rest of the world, because we all share this planet. We all come from the same place. So, you know, if it is brain wiring, if 50% of us are inclined to think, or not inclined to think, because you can't, listen, we all know, we have that uncle right at Thanksgiving. We've had these conversations. I have that. you know, people that are on the other end of the political spectrum. You cannot talk people out of things. I mean, it's the way you're wired, it's the way you're built. How do we fix that? Is there a way to fix that? And that's where I'm stuck. And I'm open to suggestions.
Serious question.
What was your opinion of Ted Nugent before and after, and when you did this with him?
Well, that's a perfect example of a person that's wired the opposite of the way my brain is wired. And you saw, because we were there for about 12 hours, and what you saw on that screen was the most hospitable moments we had in our conversation.
Yeah, it
The
got
rest of
pretty, it got
was-
pretty intense there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was, all of it was intense, and it was very frustrating. And I couldn't break through because there's no conversing with, you know, there was a firewall in the ideology there. So I think that's, I've always thought about that. If you look at all the problems in the world, what does it come down to? It comes down to money. It really does. Money is an exchange of energy. It's how we measure that exchange of energy. And it should be equitable in an ideal, perfect world. But how do we enforce inequality? Well, we use religion, we use greed, we use fear, a lot of things. And that's it. And that's how simple it is. And listen, if you're on the receiving end of the benefits of that equation, you may not want to rock the boat. You know, if you're a 1%er, you kind of like where you're at in life right now. And you're okay with, you know, people earning, you know, $100 a year and having no health care, dying of AIDS in Africa or Asia or whatever it is, you know. We don't care. We don't feel it. Do you feel their pain? They're so far away. They're on the other side of the world. I mean, you think Donald Trump or feels that